There is one detail in the true crime case of Missy Beavers that keeps me up at night. Missy Beavers' passion was working out, and she taught this workout class early in the morning at Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, Texas. Now, she got there super early to teach this class. I am talking 4:15 a.m. She was at the church getting ready for her 5 a.m. class. Now, this all happened on April 18th, 2016. She got there, she started unloading her car, but little did she know that someone was already in the church. They had broken in and was walking through the hallways. How do we know this? They are caught on camera. You see this person in this SWAT gear. Now, we don't know if this was a costume SWAT gear or if this was real. It said police on the back of it. There was a helmet. It was all black, and it was supposed to look like a SWAT team police uniform. And like I said, they had a helmet, and they're walking down the hallways. We see all of this from the released camera footage by the police in this case. They go up and down the hallways. They're looking into rooms. They're going in rooms, out of rooms. They are holding a hammer, and they start breaking glass with this hammer. This is what was used to attack Missy. And yes, she was attacked. Shortly after she got to the church and started unloading her car, she was attacked by this person. Now, this is the part that keeps me up at night. According to sources, the police have footage of the whole thing. There was cameras in the room where this all happened. That keeps me up at night. But also, they have supposedly said that the attacker filmed this whole thing with their camera as well. This is absolutely terrifying to me. And I'm not really sure what this all means. There's been many theories in the Missy Beavers true crime case, but this has not been solved. All of this time later, since 2016, we still do not know who did this. Now, there has been theories. There has been theories that this person was a woman. They are short in stature, kind of heftier. So people believe that maybe this was a woman. Now, Missy did have some affairs on her husband during their marriage. People think that this could have been a scorned wife or person who was trying to get back at her. There's also the theory that this was just a break-in. This was just a random act. They were going to steal something, and they didn't know that Missy was there. Family members have been vetted. There was things that maybe led to them being involved. But as today, there is no there's no evidence saying that anybody in the family has done anything. They've all been vetted and they've all been cleared. As far as the theories of people close to her, the reason people think that is because it feels like they knew she was going to be there. This was a very early morning class. She had announced it on her social media, so there is a possibility that this was just someone who was stalking her. But whoever it was, it's very much of a coincidence that they were there at the same time that Missy got there. What do you guys think happened in the case of Missy Beavers? I'm Sarah. I am your true crime best friend. If you would like to follow me for more, hit that plus. This keeps me up at night. One of the scariest details I have ever heard in a case is that this man would just go into homes and watch people as they breathe at night. Whew. On July 23rd, 2007, at 9 a.m., in the morning, let's just get that straight, Jennifer Petit entered a bank in Cheshire, Connecticut. She quietly withdrew $15,000 from her account. But she also told the bank teller that her family was being held by two men in her home and that she needed help. She said if she didn't get the money, it wouldn't be good. And this was not an exaggeration. Back at the Petit home, the family was being held by two men in black masks. The family was made of Jennifer, William, which is the dad, and two kids, Haley, which was 17, and Michaela, who was 11. The day before all of this happened, Jennifer, the mom, and Michaela, the youngest, went shopping at a place called the Stop and Shop. This is where a person, Joshua, saw them shopping. He followed them home and remembered where they were for later. Joshua talked his friend into coming back and taking things from the home. But all of this went south super fast, and we're not sure if they had planned that this goes the way that it did, but it gets really bad. Now, Joshua has this accomplice, and we are going to call them Hayes. This person later comes out as trans, and we don't want to misgender, so we will call them Hayes. Now, around 3 a.m., both of these people broke into the Petit home. They had gloves and masks on. William, the dad, was asleep on the couch, and Joshua grabbed a baseball bat and used it on William, the dad. It was really, really bad. His injuries were very, very, very bad. They tied him in the basement, and then they went upstairs to where all of the girls were sleeping. They found Haley first. She was asleep in her room. Then they reportedly found Michaela and Jennifer in the parents' room. Michaela was staying with her mom. This is terrifying. They woke up all of the girls and put pillowcases on their heads so they wouldn't see them. Then they tied them to their beds. Now, the intruders said later that this was all just a robbery gone very bad, and everything just kind of escalated very fast. They didn't find the valuables that they thought that this family would have. So they devised a plan to wait till the morning to when the bank opened so that they could take Jennifer to get money. What they ended up doing, I can't say exactly. Um, I I just can't say it. But this is horrible what they did to this family. Now, they were scared because they thought that they had left evidence in the home. So Hayes went to a gas station to get gas. And while they were gone, Joshua was terrorizing the 11-year-old girl. Like I said, I cannot say exactly what happened, but I think you can formulate in your head what this man did to this 11-year-old girl. He also took pictures of him performing these acts. This was a long night in the home. So there was multiple things that they had done. It was insane. But along with all of that, they found evidence that they were drinking beer from the fridge, just making themselves at home while they were doing horrible things to this family. As soon as the bank opened in the morning, they took Jennifer there and instructed her to get the money, but not say anything that had happened. But we know that she told the bank teller, and the bank teller did call police and tell them right away. She was on a 911 call as Jennifer was walking out of the bank. Police were deployed in minutes to the home. However, they waited outside over 30 minutes before anything happened with police. In this time, horrible things happened to these women and this family, and the police just waited outside. I mean, they were praised later for what they had done for this scene, but yet many police said that they could hear the girls screaming from the inside. There's something wrong with this. All while the police were outside of the home, Michaela, things happened to her. Jennifer, things happened to her. They were also unalived. The mother was unalived. They spread gasoline on the two girls and then lit the house on fire. They also lit them on fire. There was evidence that was found later that said that Jennifer was unalived before. The girls were unalived because of the fire. They were awake. They knew what was happening the whole time. Also, while the police were waiting outside, Josh and Hayes decided that they were going to get in the Petit car and try to escape. They rammed it into a police car and were apprehended. The same time this was happening, William, who regained consciousness from his injuries, he was in the basement and he got out through the storm cellar, and ran. He ran to a neighbor. The police didn't find him. He ran to a neighbor. This all ended around 10 a.m. 10 a.m. They endured 7 hours of all of this. So like, share, and meet me in the second episode. We are back for part 2, and we just learned that this family endured over 7 hours of just horrendous things. By the end of all of this, William was the only one that made it out, and he was alive. Joshua and Hayes went to trial separately. They thought that maybe this would give them a better chance. Now, this case was a huge discussion of the D penalty because a lot of the community wanted to see that happen, but yet there was a lot of discussion whether life was also a possibility. They were sentenced to the D penalty, but laws changed in Cheshire and in Connecticut, and so they ended up getting life. The dad, William, went on to talk a lot about the laws. He talked a lot about advocacy and did a lot of advocacy work to spread his foundation, who was after the girls and his wife, and he really did a lot of help in the community. The Petit family home was made into a memorial, and I think that's probably for the best. So this starts our discussion on the awful things that they did to this family. Why? What possessed these men to do that? These two people were very, very different. Joshua had a big history of robbery. He had a big history of break-ins. He would go into families' homes, he would steal things, and then he would just sit and watch them breathe. He liked, in my opinion, he liked the thought of doing that. I think it was a control issue, but I think that this is probably the scariest thing that I have heard in a case in a long time. Because I cannot imagine being asleep and waking up and there is a man just watching you. Hayes and Joshua, and his last name is Kamaskavetsky. It's a very long last name. They met in a treatment center for slugs, I'll say it like that, in 2006. Like I said before, both of these people had a very tough upbringing. It is said that Hayes' father left him and abandoned him, and then he also turned to slugs to relieve all of his pain. But I do believe that Josh was even scarier, and I truly believe that he was the mastermind in all of this. I think that he saw Michaela at that store the day before, and I think he knew right then what he was going to do. I think once he got in there, it went very south very fast, and he couldn't control it anymore. So that's why it ended so badly. But I do think he had a plan to do things to Michaela. These are both horrible, horrible people, and I'm so glad that they are where they are. This is a tough, tough case. This case is one where it's hard to think about. It's hard to wrap your mind around that people would do this. I'm just at a loss for words. You can watch a documentary based on this case. It, I believe, is on HBO. It's called The Cheshire. It's named after the town. So you can look that up and get some more information about this case. I think the hardest thing for me to deal with in watching the documentary and researching this was the police action, that they stayed out there for 30 minutes while all of this was happening. I am Sarah. I cover cases like this here on TikTok, but I also have a podcast and a YouTube channel called CODE187. I'm your true crime best friend, and I will see you later. Let's all admit, from the first moment that we saw Chris Watts crying on TV, we already knew. We all first met Chris Watts on the news begging for his family's return on August 14th, 2018. And if you're a good crime junkie, you were like, something is very wrong here. Chris Watts met his wife Shanann in 2010. They married in 2012, and they were a pretty normal, cute little couple. They had their first daughter, Bella, in 2013. Shanann was a great mom, and she recorded some of their journey on YouTube and other social media sites. In 2015, Celeste, their second daughter, was born. Shanann was great with the girls. I mean, their relationship had a few bumps in the road, like everyone does. Some financial stuff happened, but all in all, they were a pretty normal, happy family. But in June of 2018, everything changed and it exploded for Chris Watts. On June 11th, 2018, Shanann told Chris that she was pregnant again, that they were going to have a child. They found out that they were going to have a little boy named Nico. The video of her surprising Chris Watts on their pregnancy was a really cute video. She was very, very happy to let him know that he was going to be a dad again. And she was very excited to have a little boy to join their family. But as people have gone back and looked at this video, Chris does not seem as excited as Shanann. In the same month that Shanann told Chris that she was pregnant again, he began an affair with a woman named Nicole Kessinger, and this affair goes on for a while. He told Nicole a lot of lies, a lot of things, like they were separated, and he just kept feeding her all of these lies. He met Nicole 4 or 5 times a week while still being with Shanann and playing this great father and husband. On August 9th, 2018, Shanann goes on a business trip. Now, of course, Shanann and Chris's relationship was on the rocks. She did not know he was having an affair, but it was still rocky. However, she told her friend that she felt like it was going to get better. However, while she was gone, he hired a babysitter and went out with Nicole and spent a bunch of money on Nicole on these dinners. On August 13th, 2018, at 2 a.m., Shanann returns home from her business trip. You can see this. There's a door camera video of her arriving home. Chris claims that he left for work at 5 or 5:15 that morning. This is the part in the story where we get introduced to Nicole Atkinson. Different Nicole. There's bad Nicole and there's good Nicole. This Nicole is a powerhouse in this case. Good Nicole went to Shanann's house because she could not get a hold of her. Shanann was supposed to have a baby appointment that morning, and she still had not talked to her best friend later in the day, and so Nicole was freaking out. like a good friend, she kept calling, but she also called Chris to ask where she is. And then when he seems a little shady, she calls the police. The police show up. They said they cannot enter the house. They did a walk around. Nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary, and they didn't seem to be there. They called Chris and had him let them into the house. Her keys, her phone, and her purse were all still in the house, but the kids and her were gone. The vehicle was also there with the car seats, and none of them were there. Since all of this happened, there has been police body cam footage released of this, and it is very sketch when you see Chris Watts. He is panicking. The neighbor catches him leaving on their security footage, and Chris was not prepared for this at all. However, the police continue looking for her, but they are definitely got their eyes set on Mr. Watts over here. From August 13th to August 15th, the world searches for Shanann and the girls. People were very concerned. Something was definitely wrong here, and they could not find the mother and then these two very small children. It becomes a huge world event. And he's still talking to Nicole through all of this, talking about how he is still in love with her. And she is just like, what is happening? Things were not settling right with the police. So Chris goes in and is interviewed. And this is when he gives a polygraph and he fails miserably. This backs him into a corner and he panics very badly. He confesses to unaliving them, or I don't know. Basically, he confesses that he saw Shanann do something to the girls. He freaked out. He unalived Shanann. He's blaming her for the girls, but he's saying he unalived her. It's a whole mess and no one is buying it. Of course, later he recants this and does say that he did it. On August 16th, 2018, Shanann, Bella, Celeste, they were all found unalived, and they were unalived by Chris. Let's make that clear. No, I'm not going to deep dive into the ins and outs of this because it is very, very tough. It's very tough to listen to what he did because it's pure evil. What I can say is Shanann's was brutal. She was found underground at one of his work sites. Bella and Celeste were awake and aware while they were driving to the work site, but Shanann was already unalived at this point. When they got there, Chris unalives the girls. Like I said, I'm going to spare you the details. It's all out there, and it is terrifying. But after he does that, he puts them into these large oil tanks. During all of this, their unborn son Nico was also lost. His version of things is he told Shanann about Nicole. They had a huge fight, and she said that she would take the kids and he would never see them again. That doesn't really line up for me, because he obviously didn't want the kids anyway. I don't believe he wanted Shanann and the kids in his life at all. I think he wanted to start over with Nicole, and I think he wanted to be a childless person. On August 21st, he is charged with 3 counts of unalive and other charges for Nico and then unaliving children. He, of course, pled guilty. The details in this case are really something out of nightmares. All of this happened in just like the span of a few months or a month. It happened extremely fast. And it's just such a tragic story because she is on social media just bragging about how wonderful her husband is. And then this happens. Let me know if you want me to deep dive or talk about a certain part of this case. This is a great overview if you just want to know the Chris Watts, Shanann Watts family story. I feel like I need to take a breath because that was a lot. Anybody else? But I am Sarah. I am your true crime best friend. Please join me for more of these stories. You can click the plus to see all of my deep dives into true crime. I also have a Spotify and YouTube account, CODE187, if you would like to join me more. Thank you for listening, and I will see you later. Bye. Today, I have an inspiring story for you. One with triumph through tragedy. I really needed a good one, so let's go. Hey, I'm Sarah. I am your true crime best friend, and today's story is actually a good one. So, this is about Anna Benatati. She was 17 when her and some friends decided to do something a bit risky. She decided to jump on a freight train. This was something that Colorado State University students in Fort Collins often did. They would jump the train and then they would get a free ride to Denver and also a little bit of adventure. As Anna and her friends jumped, Anna missed the train. She fell and then the train ran over her legs. It was going about only 10 miles an hour, but it still took her legs. So both legs were amputated, and she lost both of her legs overnight in this accident. She explains that it really didn't hit her until she was in the hospital. She thought, I'm train wreck girl with no legs. Like, what do I do now? But that is when Anna decided to change her perspective. She decided to remember that her life is not over. She said, you can give up or you can get up, which is such an inspiring phrase. Anna did get up, and she discovered something that made her feel so free. She began skiing, and she was good, like really good. Even trying out for the Olympics, and now she is an instructor. So, what? Anna has proven that sometimes bad choices in life can lead to a great life. So, if you're down today, you're not sure, it's kind of gloomy outside here, and you're just down, just remember Anna and the things she's accomplished, even though people thought that she couldn't. If you want more stories, you can always follow me here on TikTok or over on my YouTube where I do long-form true crime stories. I will see you guys next time. Bye. Have you heard about this crazy John O'Keefe story? Well, I took notes, so buckle up. Follow me on this one because it gets messy and it just turns into a whole thing. This case is playing out in court right now, and it's what everyone is talking about. It's crazy popular and it's a crazy twisty case. So John O'Keefe was a Boston police officer who was found the morning of January 29th, 2022. Karen Reed was John's girlfriend who is on trial currently for his unaliving. Now, she is suspected of hitting him with her SUV and then leaving him in the snow to, pass. So what we're all wondering is, how did we get here, right? How did we get to this person's unaliving and this person in trial? Well, So the night of the incident, the couple was out with their friends, having some drinks. They went to 2 different bars and stayed a while, not very long. And then roughly around midnight, their group some of their group decided they were going to go back to another person's house. They're invited, and neither of them knew him super well. And what followed after, we don't exactly know, but we have kind of an idea. I don't know. The whole reason this is so twisty and turny is because this woman, Karen, keeps changing her stories. There's
a story, and then it changes, and then another story, and it changes. But the one that I think she settled on was that she told him something that she's not going to the house. So she drops him off to the house and leaves. Somehow, he is left in that house for the full night, and she goes home. She says she woke up in the early morning hours and John was still gone, so she kind of freaked out. When she returned to the home that he was supposed to be at, she found John unresponsive in the snow. He passed out there, and he later was gone at the hospital. His injuries are pretty crazy. So John had 2 black eyes, a cut on his nose, abrasions on his right arm, and a cut to the back of his head, with many skull fractures going on. Although hypothermia was probably the main cause, what happened here? Because this is way more than just hypothermia. So Karen was arrested days later. Her SUV had a shattered right rear tail light and scratches on the bumper. There was glass on the bumper, and that's why they think she basically like ran over him or backed into him or something. The prosecution is saying that that glass is from a literal like glass that he was holding in his hand when she hit him. They, of course, got all the text, and there's a lot of back and forth about them breaking up, about him cheating, a lot of stuff going on here. These accusations and all this back and forth was in the weeks leading up to this event. Now, the defense, get this, is saying that there is a police cover-up because of his job and because of his relation to the police department. They are saying that whoever was in that house was the ones that unalived him, or an accident happened or something, and then they left him out in the snow and framed Karen. The defense is also saying that his injuries look more like a dog attack, which there was a dog in the home, but they're not really sure if he was in the home that night. I don't know. So many people are being brought to trial. There's a list of friends, but there's this one person who's being brought to trial that it just gets bananas. There's this journalist, apparently, called Turtle Boy. I don't know what's with the name. But he is a blogger, and he's blogged about this case since the beginning. He is coming to witness in the trial, but he also has had many charges of domestic violence, and a lot of people are saying that he's in love with Karen. This is a problem because they're saying he fed her evidence from the trial that they were trying to keep from her or something. Basically, he's feeding her information. There was 40 phone calls and 40 hours and 189 phone calls between Turtle Boy and Karen. So something was going on there. This federal investigation has submitted over 3,000 pages of evidence. Like, this went to the FBI. This is a messy trial. They're literally playing it out right now, and it's just gonna get bananas. So, if you didn't know about it, you do now. I am Sarah. I am your true crime best friend. Please follow me on TikTok here and over on YouTube. Things just keep getting weirder and weirder and weirder in true crime. Alright, I love y'all. See you later. Bye. This little girl went missing from her bed in the middle of the night. 9 days later, her body was found in that same bed. This is the case of Paulette Ferrara. It is insane. Hi guys, I'm Sarah. I am your true crime best friend. I post here and then over on YouTube. Today's case is a really sad one. It's a bizarre one, so buckle up. Let's get started. Lizette and Mauricio Ferrara had 2 daughters, one named Lizette and one named Paulette. They were a rather wealthy family living in Mexico. The family were fortunate to have nannies helping them care for their children. This was really needed and really important because their youngest daughter, Paulette, had health problems. She was born premature at 25 weeks. She had motor disabilities, language impairments. She required around-the-clock care. She had to go to lots of doctors, have lots of medication. So her two nannies cared for her on a daily basis. Paulette did have problems with language and also moving around, getting from place to place. She didn't walk well, but she was very smart. She learned through therapy how to take a few steps and also learned a few words such as mama, dada, and also food. On March 21st, around 9 p.m., the family returned home from a trip. The nanny helped Paulette into her pajamas, and Paulette's mother and her nanny gave her a goodnight kiss. That was the last time they saw Paulette alive. The following day, March 22nd, 2010, the nannies began waking up the children for school. After getting Lizette ready, they went into the room to wake up Paulette. However, she was nowhere to be found. The family searched this large luxury apartment, but the child was missing. This was so strange because there was no sign of Paulette leaving the building, nor could she have because of her motor disabilities. The police came right away and they searched the apartment as well, and there was no sign of forced entry and nothing missing from the home. This little girl's disappearance created a big controversy in Mexico. On average, more than 4 children go missing in Mexico every day, and police couldn't juggle all of these cases. But because Paulette's family was wealthy, she got flyers, she got billboards, and TV time. It seemed very unfair. But while the search was taking place, the fingers were pointed at her parents. The nannies say that the mother didn't seem to be frantic, and the parents didn't have very much emotion. Her mother was seen sitting on Paulette's bed, but to some people, this was off. She did not seem to be right in these interviews, and people were picking up on it. Some people saying that there was something off on this whole thing. After a few long days of investigation, police released that they did not believe Paulette was kidnapped. They also think that it is not possible for Paulette to have left on her own without assistance. Dog team searched but found nothing, and found that she didn't even leave the apartment. On March 29th, 2010, the parents and nannies were placed on house arrest. The police found inconsistencies in their stories. They were transferred to hotels to begin getting questioned for doing something. Then, 9 days after Paulette went missing, the police were recreating the scene, and they found the body of Paulette. They were in Paulette's room when they started smelling something horrible. When they ripped the mattress away, they found small Paulette at the foot of her own bed. She was found wrapped tightly in her own blankets. She was wearing red pajama bottoms and a blue sweater. Investigators who had been zeroing in on the parents for unaliving their child now said this was a tragic accident. It was reported that Paulette must have accidentally rolled into the space between the foot of her bed and the mattress. It was asphyxiation. It was determined she never left the room. This was unbelievable. Everyone searched this room, this house, top to bottom. Investigators searched numerous times. Dog teams searched numerous times. No one knew that she was there. Even her mother did those interviews sitting on the bed talking about the disappearance of her child while she was right there. Because she was wrapped so tightly and covered in those blankets, her body did not smell right away. After Paulette was found, the parents blamed each other. The police were criticized for the investigation and dropping the ball. This case is still known as an accidental case, but people are not so sure. There's a lot of people that question what happened here and point fingers at the parents and the investigators. Some people think that it still may be foul play. What do you think happened to 4-year-old Paulette?
The town bully in this town was unalived in broad daylight, and everyone just was like, can you believe that? Just get ready for the story. It's crazy. Hi, I'm Sarah. I am your true crime best friend. I post here on TikTok and also over on YouTube. Today's story is of Ken McElroy. I have been wanting to cover this case for a while, never got the chance, and here we are. So Ken McElroy was the town bully. This guy was mean. He did a bunch of crimes. He was a horrible dude, right? And everyone knew him in the small town of Skidmore, Missouri. Of course, everyone knew him because he was just being a troublemaker. Get this, over his life, he committed assault, child SA, arson, animal cruelty, and attempted unalive. And that is just to name a few. On July 10th, 1981, shots rang out in this small town. He was struck while sitting in his truck in front of about 30 to 46 people. But everyone just looked the other way. They were like, we have no idea. And to this day, this case is still unsolved. So, do you agree with this? Do you think that these people in this town should confess who did it? Or do you agree that this man needed to be unalived and the whole town was right in just being like, I don't know. Isn't this a crazy story? I saw this a long time ago and I was like, I don't know what side I'm on. I mean, this guy committed so many crimes and just kept getting out of jail. And I'm like, I mean, something had to be done, right? But is this right? I'm just confused. So what do you guys think?
Something's going on with the Dyatlov Pass incident, and they don't want us to know. Hey, I'm Sarah. I am your true crime best friend. Check me out on YouTube and hit that plus for more. Now let's get into it. This gets creepy, crazy, and just mysterious. So, warning, buckle up. Let's go. January 1959, a group of experienced trekkers started to make their way on a hike up the mountains, I think it's called Ural Mountains, between February 1st and February 2nd, 1959. All of those hikers were unalived. And it was due to, quote-unquote, mysterious circumstances. The group was led by a man named Igor, and like I said, all of the people in this group were very experienced in the outdoors, in hiking, in these snowy conditions. They were really experienced and knew what they were doing. The 9 hikers ranged from 21 to 38 years old. There was 8 men and 2 women. One returned due to health issues. He kind of stopped early. He wasn't feeling well, came back. The rest of the hikers began their travels into the snowy mountains. They were prepared and they were excited. Pictures and diaries detailed their travels. It is unknown what exactly happened, but the team failed to return to base So searchers were sent to find them. On February 26, they found the damaged tent. The tent had been ripped open from the inside. All of the members of the group's stuff was there. 9 set of footprints led out of the tent. Nearby in the woods was the remains of a small fire. 2 people, unalived, were found here, only in their underwear. 2 more seemed to be going back to the tent. 13 feet away were those 4 more found unalived, and they were partially clothed. So this is where all the weirdness starts. They brought the hikers in for autopsy. Only 6 of them died of hypothermia, this being the likely cause of unaliving in the snow-covered mountain. It would even explain the levels of undress, because when you go through hypothermia, your body feels like it's burning, so you take off part of your clothes. But these other 2 causes of the unaliving are absolutely crazy. Internal bleeding by severe chest trauma. It could be like the force of a speeding car. And the last was fatal skull injury. These injuries were so bizarre. 1 man had a twisted neck, 2 bodies had no eyes, and 1 was missing her tongue. 1 seemed to have bitten off part of his own hand at the knuckle. Another weird thing is that they seem to have had nothing in their stomach for 8 hours, and there was partially made food in the tent. Like, it was on plates, it was ready to go. But what would cause this group to feel like they had to cut or tear this tent from the inside out and then run away? The investigation seemed to kind of stall from there, but it was ruled as a compelling natural force. One of the biggest mysteries in this is that there was radiation on some of the clothing. Now, this could have been explained by a couple of them helping with a cleanup of somewhere that had radiation, and so they had it on their clothes. But this was years before, so what the heck? Now, some people believe in the slab avalanche theory. Let me get into that. So they think that a slab of snow basically slid onto the hiker's tent. They thought an avalanche was coming, and so they ran. They had built a snow den, and then that collapsed and unalived a couple of them, and then the others just died from the elements. Part of this theory is that they also believe that scavenging animals, like animals looking for food, ate the eyeballs and the tongue. That's really gross, but it could be an explanation for where those went. Do you think that this slab theory holds any weight? Do you think that this could be what it is? I mean, I heard this slab theory and I was like, maybe, but some of the injuries were super bizarre. And the radiation and just all of it together doesn't really make any sense to me. But do you think that it's the slab theory? Do you think it's the Russian government or the CIA? Do you think that it's aliens or a Yeti? Do you think that it could be a person that was up there? They didn't find any evidence, but what do you think about this case? What are your thoughts? Because it keeps me up at night. Why did these hikers have such bizarre injuries? And what happened up there? I just have no words. But what do you guys think? Please leave me a comment below. Don't forget to look at my YouTube channel for more, and hit that plus if you would like to see more of me on your TikTok feed. I will see you guys next time. Bye. This is Zachary Davis, and this is the most disturbing interview I have ever seen. 2 months before his trial, In February of 2015, 15-year-old Zachary Davis sat down to do an interview with Dr. Phil. To this day, it is the scariest, creepiest thing I have ever seen. In 2012, Zach, his mom, and his older brother went to the cinema together and then went home. And that night, Zachary waited until they fell asleep and then went into his mom's room. He unalived her in her sleep. This was multiple times with a hedgehammer. This was terrifying the way he explained it, but we'll get there. She did wake up in the middle of this, so she knew what was happening. His mother, Melanie Davis, was a single mother since her husband died 6 years before this all happened. After he unalived his mother, he began pouring a mixture of whiskey and gas all over the house to set it ablaze. He was hoping to get his brother as well, but he woke up and ran outside. Zach was later convicted of first-degree unaliving. He said he regretted not doing the same thing to his brother that night. But the interview on Dr. Phil before the trial was what stunned everyone. Zachary was very detailed and calm about the events that happened that night. He smiles and shows no remorse. Now, it is said that Zachary Davis could have mental health issues, and I think it's very clear being that he has no remorse in this situation. During this interview, he seems to make like these robotic gestures as he nods. He nods in a very, very odd way. Some have said that he might have the devil in him. He even tells Dr. Phil that he laughed while doing all of what he did. This interview is truly the most disturbing thing I have seen ever. I had to talk about it because it has stuck with me. This is something that is just pure evil, and you can see it in his face. What are your thoughts on Zachary Davis and this case, as well as the interview on Dr. Phil? And as always, hit the plus. I am Sarah. I am your true crime best friend. I make content here and then over on YouTube, so please subscribe to both. This man is so dangerous that he is kept in a glass cell underneath the prison because he's not only a danger to society, but also to other prisoners. I am Sarah. I am your true crime best friend, and today we are exploring the case of Robert Maudsley. Buckle up, guys. This one gets crazy. So Robert was born June 26, 1953. He was one of 12 kids born in Specky, Liverpool, to honestly pretty crappy parents. He spent some time in an orphanage in his young years, but then his parents regained custody, and what he went back into was horrific. Robert explains that he was beaten up to 6 times a day with sticks and rods. He was taken and put into foster care, but his dad told the family that he had died. Of course, now at 16, Robert was dealing with a very traumatic past, and he also developed a drug habit. He believes that he has psychological issues and told doctors that he heard voices, and these voices told him to unalive his parents. Of course, he had a bad upbringing, so all of this just kind of fueled the fire in him. In 1973, Robert was working as an S-worker and met a man named John Farrell. Robert states that John showed him pictures of children he abused, and it set Robert into a rage. He used a garrote on him until he was unalived. Robert was caught for this and was declared unfit for trial. He was instead taken to Broadmoor Hospital for the criminally insane. He was there for 3 years, but the help he was getting didn't last. In 1977, Robert and another man in the hospital took a hostage and barricaded themselves into a cell. The man reportedly was there for a SA of a child. They both tortured this man for 9 hours. They eventually garroted the man and cracked his head open like an egg. A spoon was later found sticking out of the man's head. After this, he was convicted of unaliving and sent to prison. He was known at the prison as a cannibal, but that was just rumors. That was not true. But it started out Robert's time in prison very scary and sad. Unfortunately, instead of turning things around, it got worse very fast. He was just getting started, and he had a plan to unalive Minnie in the prison. He convinced a man named Salney Darwin to come back to his cell. When he did, he cut his throat and then placed him under the bed. Then he went into 56-year-old Bill Roberts' cell and attacked him, hacking at him and hitting the man's head into the wall. The first man was convicted for beating his wife, so it seemed like Robert was unaliving in the name of justice. He calmly told officers, "You will be missing 2 at head count." He was sent to solitary, of course, and remained there ever since. He seemed to be a huge danger to literally everyone. He was quoted as saying that if his parents were dead, none of this would have happened. Robert went through many different psychological processes. They really tried to turn him around or break him, pretty much. Whatever came first. He began begging to take his own life. But today, he remains alive at the age of 70. He is such a danger to humanity that he remains locked underground in a glass cell. He has the record of the most consecutive days in solitary confinement. He has been in this special cell since 1983. It itself is an 18-foot by 14-foot, and he is there 23 hours out of the day, every day. This is in the basement of the Wakefield prison, and that is where he remains today. Some people are calling for his release because they believe that it happened so long ago that maybe he should just go back into regular prison, or they should take it easier on him. But what do you think? With all of his psychological issues, with everything that he did, with the danger to the prisoners that he is with, what do you think should happen? The bigger question here is, how do we prevent things like this from happening? How do we get to children and people who are having this big of an issue before it becomes unaliving and then what it is now? Like I said before, I am Sarah. I am your true crime best friend. I make content here and over on YouTube. So if you'd like to see more videos like this, please hit that plus and also go over to YouTube, and I will see you there. I'll see you next time with another true crime case.